The American business community has welcomed the visit by Secretary Yellen to China, citing it is a positive indicator for trade. Michael Hart, the president of the American Chamber of Commerce in China, shared in an interview with Zheng Chunying his perspective on the key role that the Chinese market plays for the U.S. despite the current tensions between the two nations.
Michael, it's great to have you with us. Let's start with Janet Yellen's visit to China, which is underway right now. We know that Yellen is always seen as a rational U.S. official with a less hawkish view on China. Earlier, she has called for a healthy economic relations between the two sides, adding that a decoupling from China would be a disaster for both economies. So, first of all, what's your take on her remarks?
So first of all, the United States and China have one of the largest trade relationships in the world. So it's obviously important, and it's important for it to be stable. One of the things AmCham China has been saying, it is important for US and China to have people-to-people exchanges at government level, at a business level, and a student level. So we're very happy that she's coming. And we do think that she's a very good representative of the US government and a positive outlook on trade.
And just ahead of Yellen's visit, China announced an export ban against U.S. companies on some rare metals used in the production of semiconductors, which is seen as one of the countermeasures against U.S.'s technology restrictions against China. So how do you expect will this action and the increasing China-U.S. tensions hurt the U.S. businesses in China?
High tech is a relatively small but very important part of that two-way trade. Over the years, there have been tensions. Over the years, there have been sanctions and measures taken by both sides. So, I don't think that one specific recent measure is going to upset the balance, but it will mean some companies have to adjust. But U.S. companies in China need to make sure they abide by U.S. law and by Chinese law, and so we'll have to study to see exactly how these new rules will impact U.S. companies.
And amid the potential prospect of so-called decoupling from China, there are also concerns that the multinationals are moving their supply chain out of China. What do you make of China's role in the overall global supply chain?
So I think it's natural for companies and countries to make sure they have a diverse and well-balanced supply chain. So over the decades, China has built itself up as a major manufacturing and sourcing location. China will continue to be an important part of U.S. companies and European company supply chains for decades to come.
China's always been stressing its interest in FDI and its strong commitment in further opening up. From your point of view, what are some of the opportunities could that create for U.S. companies?
We do believe China will continue to be an important place for U.S. companies to invest. So there are plenty of areas where China is a leading sector. So for example, electronic vehicles. China's consumer market is very attractive. Aviation sector is very attractive. So a number of our member companies are very interested to continue to engage with China to see what China can do from a consumer point of view, but also China will continue to be important in terms of manufacturing and supply chain. So a whole host of our companies are very interested in continuing to do business here. And we need to manage the relationship. So U.S. companies have said over the past 3 years their number one pain point was U.S.-China relations. So if we can make U.S.-China relations better, we can probably expect more FDI from U.S. companies.
And now let's get back to Janet Yellen's visit to China. Do you expect their visit to produce any tangible results when it comes to improving the bilateral economic ties?
The business community is pleased to see Secretary Yellen here. We're pleased to see the U.S. and Chinese government officials talking. So I do think that that in itself is positive. In terms of what she's hoping to achieve, we'll have to see how she frames that. I know she's got plenty on her agenda. It is important for U.S. and China to have people-to-people exchanges at government.
Dramatic security camera footage from Buenos Aires, Argentina captured the moment police rescued a woman from a near shooting.
The CCTV footage shows a man, reportedly the former partner of the woman, approaching her with a gun pointed. Police on duty nearby acted quickly, firing 2 shots at the assailant before he was taken into custody. The woman was not physically harmed. The assailant is recovering in hospital from the gunshots he sustained from his encounter with police. The assailant is expected to face criminal charges.
Thank you. You're still on Focus today here on TVRI World. Beijing residents braced for more blistering heat with temperatures expected to hit 40 degrees Celsius. Meanwhile, heavy rainfalls hit Spain's Zaragoza, leaving main streets flooded and vehicles submerged in water.
The state media reported that Beijing authorities issued a red alert for high temperatures on Thursday morning, the highest in a color-coded alert system, as temperatures in most parts of the city are expected to rise above 40 degrees Celsius. People at a centrally located tourist street could be seen sporting sun protective gear, such as umbrellas, sun hats, and anti-UV jackets, as they braved the heat to queue for ice cream and cold drinks. Meantime, flash floods caused damage in Spain's Zaragoza. Regional emergency services did not report any injuries under the orange rain alert. According to emergency service, a train carrying 500 people was forced to stop after the railway flooded. Police warned residents to avoid unnecessary travel and not to drive through flooded areas. And the EU-backed Copernicus Climate Change Service said this past June was the hottest June globally on record in terms of sea and air temperatures. The Copernicus report stated that the month was the warmest June globally at just over 0.5 degrees Celsius above the 1991 to 2020 average, exceeding June 2019, the previous record, by a substantial margin.
Deforestation in Brazil's Amazon fell over 30% in the first half of 2023, preliminary government data showed.
These figures come after President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva made tougher environmental policies a priority in his government. Data produced by Brazil's National Space Research Agency, or INPE, reported that 2,649 square kilometers of rainforest were cleared in the region in the half year, the lowest for the period since 2019. But that's an area more than 3 times the size of New York City, underscoring the challenge Lula faces to eliminate deforestation entirely. Lula took office in January, promising to end deforestation by 2030, after surging destruction under his predecessor, Jair Bolsonaro, who had slashed environmental protection efforts.